All right, guys, lab number 3. This is pretty similar to what we just did with blood pressure and heart rate during exercise, except now we're going to be following a specific protocol, and we're using this to predict VO2 max. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the lab itself, and then I'll make a separate video actually talking about the report. But for the lab itself, you can open that up and follow along. This is the YMCA Submax cycle ergometer test that we're using to predict VO2 max. Okay, so if we look at the steps, number 1, gather supplies, including heart rate monitor, stopwatch, blood pressure cuff. This equipment, we'll have all this out. The heart rate monitors, we'll show you guys how to use that. That's going to help us to confirm our readings for palpation. So you guys are always still using the radial sight for heart rate, and then you can use either the heart rate monitor that we show or a smartwatch, Apple Watch, whatever you've got to double check that number. Number 2, review test termination criteria. I'll go through each of these. Subject reaching or exceeding 85% of predicted heart rate max. So this isn't a danger thing. We're not really worried about them getting hurt if they exceed that, but this is a sub-max test, meaning we don't want them to reach their max heart rate or their max effort, right? So we cap them at 85%. And if you look at number 4, it talks about calculating this. So we used the age predicted heart rate max 220 minus age in our last lab, and we're going to use that again. And then once you have that, then you just take that number times 0.85 to get 85%. All right, so you get that 220 minus age, and then take that number times 0.85, and that is the cap for your partner or your subject's heart rate. We don't want to exceed that. Second criteria, drop of systolic blood pressure greater than 10 millimeters of mercury as work rate increases or systolic blood pressure drops below resting value. Especially during exercise, we don't want to see that happening, so we would stop the test. See if systolic blood pressure gets above 250 millimeters of mercury. It's really high, it's a bit concerning, so we don't want to see that. Diastolic blood pressure, again, if it goes too high, we will stop the test for safety, because diastolic blood pressure in reality should stay pretty similar or even go down a bit. If the client asks to stop, of course, we would stop the test, or if they become dizzy, confused, they get chest pain or any symptoms like that, we would always stop for them. Okay, so if the client asks to stop, that's the end of the test. And then F, if we reach 5 minutes in any stage. So I'll talk about the stages in a second, but number 3, briefly explain the procedure to the client and be available for questions. It has the example here. This is important to know because this is the first part of your practical on this. So make sure you guys know how to explain the test, just like this example. Age predicted heart rate max, 85%. Number 6, have the participant put on a heart rate monitor. Again, like I said, you can use the smartwatch or any other thing you've got to take place of that, but we'll have heart rate monitors in lab to double check our measurements. Adjust the cycle. This is the exact same as we did for last week. And then we start to get into the actual criteria itself for the actual protocol. The goal. So number 11 is highlighted. This is really important. The goal of this is to obtain 2 sets of steady state heart rate before terminating the test. Steady state heart rate criteria is very important for you to know. This is a question on your practical. Make sure you know it. It's also just really important to understand. So our criteria for steady state heart rate has 2 aspects. One, that the 2 heart rates you get are within 5 beats per minute of each other, and they are both above 110. Okay, so steady state, if it's 115 and 125, that is not steady state, because yes, they're above 110, but they're not within 5. Conversely, if they are 106 and 109, yes, they're within 5, but they're not above 110. Okay, so that also would not count for steady state heart rate. The reason we look at this is to see if our participant has acclimated to the increase in the workload, and each stage is going to slightly increase that workload. So we want to know that before we move them up. We don't want to just move them up in resistance without them having acclimated. So each stage is going to last 3 minutes, and the subject will always pedal at 50 RPMs. That is important for our data and so that everything is done as according to the procedure, which we'll find in table 1. So if you look at, it's number 19 on here, but this is your table 1. This will tell you the workload that your partner will be at for each part of the exercise. Stage 1, everybody does the same thing. So stage 1, everybody is at 0.5 kg and they're pedaling at 50 RPMs, okay? During stage 1 and during every stage, you're going to take heart rate, blood pressure, and RPE. The difference is in stage 1, you were just taking heart rate, blood pressure, and RPE, one of each, whereas in the preceding stages, or in the following stages, sorry, you're going to take 2 heart rates. So for stage 1, it's just one of each. You're going to use the heart rate that you get in stage 1 to determine what vertical column your participant is going to work in for the rest of the test. So it's not a bad idea to start halfway or even 2/3 of the way through the stage. So whether that's 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, that's a good spot to start so that the time doesn't get too long in any particular stage. Say it's 2 minutes of stage 1, I would take my partner's heart rate at the radial site and then their blood pressure with the cuff and RPE in that order. I'd write that down on my data sheet and then I would use that. I would go down to my table and based on what that heart rate is, that's how I select their category. So if their heart rate was 83, that puts them in that second column, that heart rate 80 to 89, and I'm going to stay in that for the entire test. So no matter what their heart rates are after that, I don't leave that column. So if their heart rate was in that second column, then I would put them at 2 kg for stage 2, 2.5 for stage 3, and then if I need stage 4, they would go to 3. Okay, so stage 2, like I said, this adds a second heart rate. So it's still 3 minutes long. They still pedal at 50. You're going to set the resistance, so the kgs, according to the column in the chart, like I just explained. And you're going to take heart rate and blood pressure again. But this time, after you take your blood pressure, you're actually going to get a second heart rate. After that, you'll get the RPE, write it down, and then compare the 2 heart rates. So I already mentioned steady state criteria earlier. That's what we're looking for. So if their heart rates meet that criteria, that they are within 5 BPM of each other, and they're both above 110, then that's great. We can move them on. What happens if this does not reach steady state? Then you'll have the client pedal for 1 more minute, and then you'll check the heart rate again. So that makes the stage 4 minutes long. And then again, if they still do not reach steady state, then we have them pedal for 1 more minute. We check the heart rate again. This makes the stage 5 minutes. And if they do not reach steady state after that total of 5 minutes, the test is over. Remember, that is the last part of our test determination criteria. Okay, but assuming that they reach steady state heart rate, they move on to stage 3. Everything here is pretty much the exact same, right, as I just mentioned in stage 2. Only difference in stage 3 is the increased workload. So using the example I have been using with that heart rate in the second column, this means that they got steady state heart rate, and now I'm going to move them to stage 3. So they go from 2 kg to 2.5 kg of resistance. Their cadence still stays at 50, all right? Cadence still stays at 50. Now, same protocol for stage 3. If the 2 heart rates that you get are meeting that steady state criteria, they're within 5 and they're above 110, then awesome. The test is over. You've gotten what you wanted. You got 2 consecutive steady state heart rates. If they did not meet that criteria, then again, you would add 1 more minute. And then again, to get to that 5th minute. But if they do not reach that, again, the same thing, end the test. If you do not reach steady state for both 2 and 3 consecutively, then you go to stage 4. So stage 4 is completely optional, just based on your participant. If they need stage 4, then you go to it. If not, then the test is done. All right, and you can end it. But stage 4, the protocol would be identical to stages 2, and 3. So you'll still get that heart rate 1, blood pressure immediately after, heart rate 2, after that, and then RPE. You'll compare those heart rates, follow the same thing, add an extra minute if you need, but nothing past 5, okay? That pretty much covers the protocol. I'll give a quick review just because I know that's a lot of information. So the test termination criteria, it's all highlighted. These are important to know because not only do they keep the participant safe, but it makes your test run a lot smoother. So the subject needs to stay below 85% of their heart rate max. Their systolic blood pressure should not be dropping greater than 10 millimeters of mercury with an increase in heart rate, and their systolic blood pressure should not drop below resting value. If systolic goes above 250, it's over. If diastolic goes above 115, it is over. If the client asks to stop at any point, it is over. If they have symptoms of dizziness, confusion, or chest pain, it is over. If they reach 5 minutes at any stage, it is over. Okay, make sure you guys know those. Make sure you know how to explain to the participant what we're doing. Know how to calculate 85% of that age-predicted heart rate max. Understand steady state heart rate criteria better than you know your first and last name, okay? You'll be glad that you did. And then stage 1, so the protocol when we're ready to start. Stage 1, everybody starts at 50 RPMs and they stay there the entire time. Stage 1 only has one heart rate, okay? Heart rate 1, blood pressure immediately after, RPE after that. Record that. Use that heart rate to find what column they are in. They stay in that column the entire time. Stage 2 and the subsequent stages are also 3 minutes long. They still pedal at 50 RPMs. The only difference now is we get that second heart rate. So heart rate 1, blood pressure, heart rate 2, and then RPE. Compare those numbers. And then based on if it's steady state, they go on. If it's not, you add the extra minutes. If they reach 5 minutes, it is over. All right. We want 2 consecutive stages with steady state heart rate. That gives us the confidence to use our equations, which I'll talk about in the lab report video, so that we can estimate their VO2 max, or the most amount of oxygen that they can use during exercise, during aerobic exercise. Okay. I think that covers everything. Like I said, there will be another video for the lab report itself, how to make it, what is expected, all that good stuff. But that covers everything for the protocol itself. Make sure you guys know this, okay? Before I end the video, I will say you guys have a midterm practical, and this is essentially it. It is very similar to this, so make sure you know this as best as possible. You know it top to bottom, inside out, however you want to think about it, okay? Make sure you know it. Make sure you can do these skills, and that practical will be a breeze.